Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. It's me, Saqib Rauf. This video particularly addresses students of BS English 4th semester at GPGC Mandiya Abbottabad. However, the students studying the same course at the other colleges across KP can also be benefited. In this video, I'll discuss speech mechanism in articulatory phonetics, the stages in sound production. As you know, there are three branches of phonetics. Articulatory phonetics, which studies the ways the vocal organs are used to produce speech sounds. Acoustic phonetics, which deals with the physical properties of speech sounds, duration, frequency, intensity, and quality, etc., that are generally measured by spectrographs to depict waveforms and spectrograms. The third branch is auditory phonetics, which is concerned with how people perceive speech sounds, that is, how the sound waves activate the listener's eardrum and how the message is carried to the brain in the form of nerve impulses. Dear students, remember that articulatory phonetics focuses on the organs of speech and their role in producing speech sounds, which is predominantly based on the data provided by the other sciences such as human anatomy and physiology. Human beings do not have separate organs used exclusively in the production of speech sounds. Instead, these organs primarily do other functions like digestive and respiratory, etc. Let me explain this. The organs which are used to produce speech sounds, they are also used in digestion and breathing. When we eat or drink something, we make use of lips, teeth, tongue, mouth cavity, etc. And when we speak, we make use of these very organs, lips, teeth, tongue, etc. So you can say that these organs perform dual function, one digestive, another speaking. Similarly, lungs are the organs which provide energy or air to speak or produce sounds, and they also provide us oxygen and help in breathing. So here we can also conclude that production of speech sounds happens either simultaneously or alternatively with the physiological processes mentioned earlier. Speech is the result of neuromotor activity. Let me explain neuromotor activity here. It is a joint activity of human brain and speech organs. Brain is the controlling unit. It gives commands to speech organs, and speech organs in response execute these commands. Now, this is in regard to speech activity. Any physical activity is a neuromotor activity. For example, if we move our hand to make any gesture or when we walk, it is a result of neuromotor activity. Neuro refers to brain which sends commands with the help of neurons, while motor means motion or movement. So neuromotor activity is any activity which happens as a result of commands given by the brain and executed by one or more body organs. So this is why we say that speech is the result of neuromotor activity. Thus, the sounds originates in the brain. After the creation of the message in the mind, a number of commands are executed by the organs of speech to physically produce the sound or sounds. This physical production initiates in the lungs and undergoes important modifications or changes in the respiratory tract before it is realized. The different stages involved in this process are referred to as speech chain. This process is also known as speech mechanism, which involves the active or passive functioning of the organs of speech. The stages in physical speech mechanism are 4 in number, as you can see in this slide. Number 1, initiation or respiration, in which the lungs provide the energy source. Number 2, phonation. The vocal folds convert the energy into audible sound. Number 3, the oronasal process. The soft palate distributes the audible sound into the oral cavity or nasal cavity. And number 4, articulation. The organs of speech transform the sound into an intelligible speech sound. This speech mechanism is represented in the figure on this slide, as you can see. The physical initiation process starts in the lungs. Linguists have described the lungs as the reservoir for airflow in much of speech. Just like water reservoir that provides us water for drinking or for producing electricity, etc., our lungs are reservoir of air that provide us air so that we can produce speech sounds. The lungs consists of spongy material that are filled with air when we inhale. Inhaling is the process of breathing in. When we inhale or breathe in, we take air into our lungs. The lungs are located in the thoracic cavity within the rib cage and are surrounded at front by the ribs and at the ventral base by the diaphragm, as you can see in the figure number 2 on this slide. The initiation or respiration stage itself consists of 2 phases, inspiration phase and expiration phase. During the inspiration phase, the diaphragm lowers and the rib cage moves upwards and outwards, which increases the dimensions of the thoracic cavity and lowers the air pressure. This enlargement of the thoracic cavity increases the lung volume, which consequently allows air flow into the lungs. Now one can say that inspiration phase is actually the inhaling process or breathing in process. In the expiration phase, the rib cage is pulled downwards and lung volume is reduced, which in turn forces the airflow out of the lungs and generates an aggressive airflow. It is during the later phase that speech production takes place in English, and it is for this reason that the sounds produced are known as egressive. Egressive here means outward flow of air. Egressive sounds are those sounds which are produced by pushing the air out through mouth or nose. The second stage in speech mechanism is phonation. In this stage, the airflow passes from the lungs into the vocal tract and then to the larynx. In the larynx, some of the essential features of the sound production take place. as they contain the vocal folds or vocal cords. Larynx is a skeletal frame situated at the top of the trachea and made up of a series of cartilages, with the two main cartilages, the thyroid and cricoid, playing a crucial role in the process of phonation. For this you can see figure number 3. Inside the thyroid cartilage there is a voice box which consists of two plates joined together at an angle at the front. The vocal folds are two plates, or rather two thick flaps of tissue, and are made up of vocal ligament and a vocal muscle. At the back, the vocal folds are attached to a pair of arytenoid cartilage which move in rotational and sliding motions that shape the position of the vocal folds. These vocal folds or cords are very important and play a very important role in one of the most important phonetic processes, which is that of voicing. It determines whether a sound produced is voiced or unvoiced. The vocal folds can assume two positions. They can be brought together, and when the airstream is forced between them, they vibrate and produce voice. Hence, we say that the sound produced is a voiced sound. When the vocal folds are wide apart, the airstream passes between them freely, meaning that vocal folds do not vibrate and no voice is produced. So we say that the sound produced is unvoiced or voiceless. The space between the vocal folds is called the glottis. Figure number 4 shows the opening and closing of glottis, which leads to voiced or unvoiced sound. Phoenician cycle can be described in the following 3 stages. Number 1, the vocal folds are drawn together fairly tightly. Number 2, the expiratory airflow builds up the pressure and forces the vocal folds apart. And number 3, as the airflow escapes through the glottis, the pressure is reduced and the vocal folds close again. The quality of the voice from loud to quiet, clear, harsh, creaky, etc. can be changed by varying the status of the vocal folds. Vocal folds can be more tense or relaxed, longer or shorter, higher or lower rate of vibration, etc. We can identify 3 basic differences in the pressure of the vocal folds. Number 1, variation in intensity, which leads to loudness. Number 2, variation in frequency, giving us high and low pitch. And number 3, variation in quality, which gives us harsh, breathy, creaky sounds. Consequently, by manipulating the vocal folds cords in diverse ways, various sets of categories can be distinguished, which are generally referred to as the modes of phonation. 5 main modes of phonation have been identified as shown in the table in this slide. The first mode or first category is voiceless, which indicates the absence of any phonation and the airflow passes freely through the glottis. The second category or second mode is voiced, in which there is the normal vocal fold vibration occurring along most or all the length of the glottis. Number 3, whisper, in which there is a significant turbulence at the glottis, which is narrowed down. And number 4, breathy voice, in which there is the normal vibration of the vocal folds accompanied by some continuous turbulent airflow, which occurs when glottal closure during the vibratory circle is not complete. And finally, creaky voice, having low frequency vibration of the vocal folds when the folds open for a very short time, often at irregular intervals. With this, we come to an end. I hope you have followed my lecture. Thank you very much.